Again, ladies and gentlemen, it is that simple. These guys aren't stupid, so they go sit down at the table and they say, whoa, wait a second. Maybe at the end of the night I could end up with 14 cards, and he could end up with 14 cards, and he could end up with 14 cards, and for damn sure he can't get his saddle back. He's not going to be able to come up with that extra payment. And if I end up with 39 cards at the end of the night, all three of these guys are going to lose their saddles. It's impossible. In any one business cycle, you have one and possibly two and possibly three people that are going to lose their real assets for a pack of tokens. I have a few, just before we go on to solutions, before we go on a little bit further. These two things just came to me from email, and I had to put this into my presentation. They are, wow. I should get somebody else to read this, because this is going to go on film with me showing how bad my eyes are. The title of this article, it doesn't help, I haven't found any that do. The title of this article is Taxing Away Freedoms, and it was sent to me by Donald Newells, a very, very good friend in Regina. The demand for slavery reparations is a diversion to put all Americans, black, white, brown, off their guard as tax slavery emerges on a global scale. Again, we have to keep in mind what's happening here. We always have diversions that take us away from reality so that we, it's the same thing over thousands of years. We have bread and circuses. Always bread and circuses. Make sure that people just have enough to be fed, and then entertain them. Divert them by some form or another. Whether it's the NFL in the US, whether it's hockey here in Canada, whether it's movies, whether it's whatever. I think we all get the point. We get diverted so that we don't sit down and analyze what's really happening to us. And as this fellow is saying, the same thing is happening with this. I think we're all familiar with the tax slavery and the reparations that are being demanded right now. I don't want to get into that too much. This is the lead-in to his article. So what are reparations about? It is to distract us from schemes for global tax reporting that will resurrect the slave master in the more powerful form of government. International organizations, the United Nations, multinational organizations such as OECD, and national organizations, US Treasury, are behind these schemes. However you cut it, the upshot is that financial privacy would cease to exist. The world's governments would acquire knowledge of the whereabouts and amounts of everyone's bank balance and investment portfolio. The Treasury is demanding that foreign financial institutions provide the IRS with personal and financial information on their customers, whether or not they are US citizens. The purpose of these qualified intermediary regulations is to discover Americans who are pretending to be foreigners. The more important effect is to provide the US government with a financial profile of every customer of a foreign financial institution with US investment source income in his portfolio. For all you people who are thinking about offshore and all that, if this doesn't start ringing alarm bells, boy, I don't know what will. What does global tax reporting have to do with slavery? Think about it. When people cannot vote with their feet without being taxed by the UN and having chunks of their income remitted to their country of origin, they do not own themselves. They are the property of their country of origin and country of residence. Few slave masters punished a shirking slave as severely as the IRS punishes a shirking taxpayer. An underperforming slave might receive a whipping or short rations for a while, but a taxpayer is robbed not only of his income, but also of several years of his life spent in prison for income tax evasion. Slave masters understood that human labor was too valuable to lock away in a dungeon, but the IRS regards shirking as slave rebellion and puts it down mercilessly. So will the OECD and the UN. Indeed, global reporting will permit parties in power to pursue political opponents across national boundaries and to dispossess groups, ethnic or otherwise, that lose political struggles. Global tax reporting means the demise of individuals, dissent and freedom, and the rebirth of gold, coins in the mattress as a favored financial institution. That's really powerful, and it's very scary. But there was one more that came in. I mean, these things came in last week. This one, the title is Extract from the Banker's Manifest. This is right from the banker's document. Capital must protect itself in every way, through combination and through legislation. Debts must be collected and loans and mortgages foreclosed as soon as possible. When, through a process of law, the common people lose their homes, they will be more tractable and more easily governed by the strong arm of the law, applied by the central power of wealth under control of leading financiers. People without homes will not quarrel with their leaders. This is well known among our principal men now engaged in forming an imperialism of capital to govern the world. By dividing the people, we can get them to expend their energies in fighting over questions of no importance to us except as teachers of the common herd. Thus, by discreet action, we can secure for ourselves what has been generally planned and successfully accomplished. That's in the Banker's Manifest. So, this is their trick.
Very interesting. I think they have a date there, 1934?
Yes, thank you very much. January 34. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Dave. God has blessed us with an abundance of goods, material goods. He's blessed us with so much, and He has given us the ingenuity and the technology and the capability to take the goods that He has given us and put it into the form that is best able to be used by all of us at any one time. He has given us that. But what has taken it away literally from over 90% of the people in the world, and I mean all around the world, people who are in poverty because of this. Not because we don't have the capability or not because we don't have the material wealth. We have it. A financial system is intended or should be intended to serve humanity rather than humanity serving it. And what has happened is the financial system has concentrated the wealth, the real wealth of the people into the hands of a very few by this mechanism of having an irrepayable debt. X does not equal X plus Y. You can't return 56 cards from a deck of 52. It can't be done. Now these fellows sitting at the table, they are not stupid. And they say, we can't put up with this situation. We need to go to the next table who's having the same game we are and see if we can get some of their cards. And so now we have international strife. We have competition between companies that doesn't have to exist. We have wars because everybody is trying to improve their bottom line. It's all so unnecessary, and all because of this. We don't lack goods and ability to service. We lack tickets. We lack tokens. We lack IOUs. We lack money. But they're all the same thing. Well, they're tickets, they're tokens, they're IOUs. But we're told we got to close down hospitals. We have to lay off nurses. We have to send doctors into the United States because we didn't print enough tickets. It's insanity.
Can I just add to this moment, VERN? Slavery is more prominent today in the world than it's ever been in all history. Slavery.
That which is physically possible must be made financially possible. Again, we have to go back to basics. That which is physically possible must be made financially possible. The solution is that instead of interest, a totally unsubstantiated capability, there's nothing wrong with the situation as we see it here with these exceptions. We have to take the chartered banks out of the equation, and we have to take government out of the equation in regard to money being introduced into society.
But that's not practical in today's society. It will not happen. So how can we do this?
If it's not practical in today's society, and it will not happen, everything else that we do in society is going to be for naught. Everything comes back to the financial system. Health matters, everything that we talk about here in the conference, everything comes back to the financial system. It is that important.
I agree that the system out there is not working, but I don't believe it's practical to say that we're going to change it from what I've seen from what you've described here. So,
Don, if I could go along with, from your own talk, one of the things that you said was, and I very strongly believe this too, if you as an individual say you can't do it, you will be right. If you as an individual say you can do it, you might be right. And I think that if we can't at least identify the problem and then work as we get, we don't need 50% of the people in Canada to recognize what the problem is to turn it around. We only need maybe 3 to 4%. That's it. So I know what you're saying. I'm not telling you that this solution is easy, but I am saying we have to start, the very first thing we have to do is get government back into one of the only functions it should be doing, which it isn't doing. And that's creating the credit of the nation interest-free. That's one of the only functions it should be performing. Most of the other functions it performs today, they have usurped from private enterprise, from private individuals. So we have to remove them from those and bind them by the Constitution, by a real Constitution, and we have to at least give them the function of creating the credit of the nation interest-free. Now, not all money, all money has to come into creation as a non-interest-bearing debt, but some of it can come into creation as a non-debt. Now, why? Why can we do that? Why should we do that? Because there are two major, actually there's two major functions that are necessary to bring into this equation here. Number one, we have an increasing population. As you have an increasing population at any one time, if you were to have nothing but repayments and loans, you'd have nothing in circulation. So you need to take into account the fact that you have an increasing population, and that with that increasing population you need to have more money. But there's another major factor that we need to take into, just one second, Stefan, another major thing that we need to take into consideration, and that is cultural heritage. We don't have a solution right now. Among all the other problems that what we just talked about, among all of those problems that are there, the one thing, again, that they don't have a solution to is what do we do with people that are displaced by the machines that have come along because of our technology and put them out of work. If you folks believe that we have to keep creating jobs, that's our function, that we need to keep people employed, then why are we all going after labor-saving devices? If you don't believe in increasing technology, then cut your lawn with a pair of scissors. Go back to washing your clothes down at the river on a scrub board. One of the basic objectives of humanity is to increasingly try to get as much back with as little of our own input. That is an objective of humanity. It's just a fact. So if that's a fact, how do we translate that into a financial fact? Remember what I said. If it's physically possible and desirable, it has to be made financially possible. And so what we need to do is we need to put an injection of money into society rather than taking it out. And so we need, if you'll go with my flow chart here, we need A in dividends. We actually need to have money coming in, as you people want to borrow money for whatever reason, as a non-interest bearing debt. That's represented by this, and then we have A dollars in dividends that go into society. So what does that mean? It means that, when you take a look around, 80% of the cost of everything you will see in your life is made up of interest and taxes. 80%. And and I'm probably understating that case. But when you take an automobile, you've probably got 400 companies that were involved in the manufacture of that automobile, right the way back to the iron ore mine and the people who made the shovels and the people who took the rubber out of various parts of South America, etc., etc. Every single one of them had to pay interest and taxes and then make a profit on that interest and taxes. And it all had to get passed on into the final cost of the automobile that we all have to purchase. So if you eliminate interest and taxes from the equation, which we can do, it's just an accounting, folks. Money is an accounting. It is not the real physical reality that we've all been taught and programmed to believe. I know I've only got a couple of minutes, but I wanted to get into, that is the solution, by the way. I'd be happy to talk to people further because I don't have that much time, but I do want to get into some of the myths that are constantly with us. These myths and sayings that people have accepted as absolute maxims in an analysis of the economy. Is that 1 hour? The very first one, and I know that I am going to be stepping on some toes here, and I don't mean to do that, but I do want people to think. And one of those myths is that money must be backed by gold and silver. Folks, what backs money? Go back to the example that I gave you. What backed the money that was circulating? My ability and integrity to redeem it upon demand. That's what backs money. The ability and the integrity of the issuer to redeem upon demand. So the very same people that are controlling the issuance of money according to the system that was previously on the board are the very same people that control gold and silver. So it doesn't make sense. You're just trading one token for another. And they are tokens because when you get right down to it, gold and silver have less intrinsic value almost than anything else we know on Earth. They don't have as much intrinsic value. That means utilitarian value, the ability to use these commodities for our betterment, whether you're talking about water or air or iron ore or aluminum. They all have far more uses than gold and silver. So they're just tokens. Okay? And possibly some teeth, but I can debate that one too. It's a red herring. Backing money with gold and silver is a red herring to take us off the path.